Live. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 16th, 2024 Litchfield School Board meeting. The time is now 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have one board member not with us at the moment. Mr. Shoemaker is running late, but he will be with us at some point this evening, I am told. Moving into our agenda, we have review and revision of any agenda items tonight.
Not for me.
Seeing no changes coming in, we'll move into consent agenda. Any items off of consent that the committee would like to discuss?
Nothing
Nope.
that needs to be discussed. I updated from covering the budget committee meeting that I went to.
Thank you.
So it's all updated there.
Yep,
and
I saw that.
anyone
I'd
has
like to
questions?
talk a little bit about the CIP.
Okay.
And I meant to send it out earlier today. I'm still working off of last year's document, just to talk about, do we want to make any changes? Is there anything we want to add?
Okay, so under old business, why don't we just add CIP? If that's okay, right underneath facilities.
Sure.
Is that all right? Perfect. All right, moving into our summary of non-public actions from October 2nd, 2024. Ms. Ames motion to approve the September 18th, 2024 minutes. Mr. Shoemaker seconded that motion. That motion passed 4-0. Ms. Ames motion to accept the resignation of Jennifer help me out. Jennifer Kay, yeah, as GMS part-time occupational therapist. Mr. Shoemaker seconded the motion, which passed 4-0. And now we're moving right into presentations and recognitions, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Mitchell and the GMS crew. Welcome again. Who do you have with you today?
So last year, if you remember, in the spring, I ended my presentation, my year, with bringing the student council members to kind of report on what they did for the year. And so I thought I'd like to also start the year. So this year we have 10 student council members, and we brought 3 of them tonight. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then I am going to ask them a few questions so you can get a sense of what student council is all about and why they decided to do it. So I'm going to go down the line and go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Jill. I'm Emma. I'm Sydney.
And what grades are you in?
Fourth.
Oh, fourth,
Yeah, so
okay.
student council is open to 4th grade. So we've been talking past couple days, and so we decided that I would just kind of ask them the questions, and then they would answer them for you. So Sydney, when Mrs. Hayes came and said, you know, we're looking for 4th graders to join student council, you felt something, right? So why did you want to be part of student council?
Because when I watched the pause videos, I was excited to have the opportunity to be in one.
Excellent. How about you, Emmett?
Well, so which one was it?
This is why did you want to be part of student council?
Well, because I thought I could make our school look better and raise more money for it.
Excellent. And Jill?
I am helpful and I wanted to try something new.
Excellent. So then, Mrs. Hayes, how many applications did we have?
52.
52 out of a class of about 80
Great.
applied to be on student council. And so you 3 were 3 of the 10 selected. So when you heard your name get called, you were obviously filled with some level of excitement. What were you most excited about once you found out that you were on student council? We'll start with you, Jill.
I was excited and because not everyone can get in it and I was one of them.
Excellent. How about you, Sydney?
So I could be the voice of GMS.
Excellent. How about you, Emmett?
So I could be on the Griffey video.
So you can be on the Griffey videos. Excellent. All right. And now that you're on student council, as I said, at the end of the year, I'm going to come back to the board, and maybe you 3 or maybe some of the other student council. If we've had a successful year, what do you think student council has done? So in other words, what are your goals now that you're on student council? Emmett, we're going to start with you.
My goals,
Yeah, what are your goals for being a student council?
trying to make our school look better and trying to raise also more money and more.
Excellent. How about you, Jill?
To make our school have kindness.
Good goal.
Sydney?
To To make positive changes for the GMS community.
And now, I told you I was going to ask you one more question. Student council does a lot of great things throughout the year. You're going to help us either raise money, or we do charity drives where we've raised, pet supplies for the local shelter. So you're going to do a lot of that kind of stuff. But you're going to also have two very important tasks. And those are selecting our spirit days and deciding what ridiculous thing I'm going to do that kids are going to vote for at the So, put it in public. Give me your idea. Give me one idea for a spirit day and one ridiculous Mr. Mitchell thing. Who wants to go first? All right, Emmett. What's your idea for a spirit day?
You dress up like a sumo wrestler.
Dress up like a sumo wrestler? And what about, what's a spirit day you'd like to see us do?
A camp out day for everyone when they bring in blankets and pillows and stuffed animals.
All right.
I love that.
Jill, you got an idea for a spirit day and a ridiculous thing for me to do?
Dress up in like a dress.
Okay. And what about a spirit day?
Raise money for charity.
Okay. How about you, Sydney?
For the ridiculous thing, is dress up as Taylor Swift. And one of the spirit days is bring anything but a water bottle day.
Bring anything but a water bottle day. That could get messy.
Yeah.
So,
Can we sing a Taylor Swift song too? I think maybe there
why
might,
does everyone want to make it worse?
Look what you made me do.
there might need to be some karaoke. I'm just saying.
Everyone does that. Like last year with the ballerina day, and they're like, "You got to dance." I'm like, "No. That was not part of the agreement."
That's why I'm giving them the idea now. So when they write it on the ballot for people to vote for, they say dress up and sing
Now-
like Taylor Swift.
Do you own a sumo costume or?
I do own a sumo.
Okay,
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And have like a microphone.
And have a mic.
Oh, wow. Excellent idea.
Do you have any other questions for the student council members while they're here?
I think those are all
Ideas.
fantastic ideas. Yes.
I really like the idea of kindness. I think the world especially needs kindness, and so does our elementary school. So you guys are already doing a great job.
Excellent. We really appreciate you coming tonight. Well done. Any other questions? No. Thank you again. This is a great update. We appreciate your time.
While I have my soapbox, community cleanup this Saturday, GMS, 10 a.m. We've already got pizzas, waters donated. We need, if you can come, great. If you can't come, but you have the tools that we could use, we need shovels, rakes, leaf blowers, tarps, all that jazz. So we're starting at 10 a.m. We're hoping to maybe catch some of the soccer families that are just done, and they're already there, so might as well come on over. So we'll be there from 10 until the job is done. So hopefully you can come join us. Thank you so much. Nice job, guys.
Thank you.
You guys.
Their pause assemblies have been great so far. They've had two so far. They had the first one was in person to go over everything, and they had fourth graders stand up and talk about each of the four categories. And then they did a remote one where they recognized, I think it was at least 2 kids from every class who were exhibiting, the pause qualities, and it was just so nice to see the kids excited and
Awesome.
and participating. So it's great.
Give everyone a minute just to get situated here. All right, excellent. Moving right along in our agenda, we'll move it over to Mr. Hirschberger for a student rep report.
Somebody want to start?
Yep, you should be going up right now. Hopefully.
You guys should make Jake dress up like Taylor Swift and sing karaoke.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Somebody's dressing up as Taylor Swift. One of the principals is going to be Taylor Swift.
One of the Taylors.
Yes.
So, fall sports are actually going really well right now. Girls volleyball won their last game against Manchester Central. They're 8-5 now. Football won their last game against Epping Newmarket. We're 6-0 now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Boys soccer won their last game against Milford. They're 11-1-1 now. Girls soccer beat Raymond 1-0 this week, and now they're 12-2. And golf is 5-12, and Madden Ash and Gavin Rekovich are going to states.
That's awesome.
Some past activities, we had the Fall Central District Student Council meeting. The Fall Central District Student Council meeting was at Pinkerton. The Future Business Leaders of America Fall Workshop happened. Homecoming happened, that was fun. And then the open house went well. I have some pictures. from the open house. We had so each teacher brought a kid in to kind of show like what they're doing in their classroom. And Miss Rafferty, students, they made cookies. Dunna, that's the picture in the middle there. That's like a computer room. They kind of showed like some programs they're making. And then on the right, yeah, you have Miss Rafferty again with some of the students that helped make cookies. Some current events, the PSATs were today, so I didn't have to be there. Seniors didn't have to be there.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
My senior was quite happy about that. Her siblings were not.
Yeah. Some future activities coming up. We have the senior trick or treat coming up. We have the Make a Difference food drive coming up. The Waterville Valley the Waterville Valley Student Council Conference trip is coming up. The New Hampshire Association of Student Council Winter Central District Student Council Conference is coming up, and the end of quarter 1 is on the 31st.
Quick.
Yep. And then yeah, just the PSATs were today, and then the Campbell High School Jazz All-State editions are on the 19th this month. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Any other
Any
happenings
questions?
within the district that you want to highlight?
Yeah, homecoming was great. You know, the attendance at the events was like awesome. Like we went to, football game at night, me and my family, and it was packed house. And just seeing everyone in really positive spirits was great. I thought the pep rally was good. The volleyball game between kids and teachers was a little more competitive than I thought it was going to be.
It was close. It was actually really close.
Yeah, it was. The middle school, they're cruising away. The sixth graders are at Nature's Classroom this week. Great field trip that they're participating in. And I think it's the fifth grade is going to Squam Lake on Friday. I might be mixing up my lakes there, but on their field trip. Like I said, you saw the elementary kids today. They got Scarecrow Jamboree next week. I'm really excited. I was at their kickoff assembly for that. And to get to see some of the historical ones in years past makes me really excited to see the work that kids do. I'm sure you did that when you were elementary school, right? Yeah. And they have their Pumpkin Fest PTOs putting on next week. So looking forward to everything that's happening in the schools right now. Really positive stuff.
Awesome. Appreciate the update.
Yeah.
We'll move it right into community comment on agenda items tonight. This is the first of 2 sessions for community comment. And we will close community comment because there's nobody running to the mic. Shifting gears into correspondence, please.
Yes, on October 3rd, Ron Oblenis, a community member, emailed the board with a question about the location of the LMS costs and the source of information from a May meeting from Mr. Totten on October 4th. Ms. Harrison emailed the board circulating the New Hampshire School Fair Funding Project flyer and then the registration link. On October 6th, Jan Sullivan circulated the draft October 2nd public minutes. On October 8th, Jan Sullivan circulated the draft October 2nd non-public minutes. On October 11th, Ann Inamorati emailed the board circulating the manifest for review. On October 11th, the superintendent emailed the board regarding the youth risk behavior survey, and there were responses from Heidi Ames, Christina Harrison, and Peter Plansky. On October 11th, Renee Burgess emailed the board circulating the draft October 16th, 2024 agenda. On October 12th, Melissa Reiki, a parent and community member, sent an email sharing her thoughts on our October 2nd meeting, which included positives about food services and Lauren Crowley, curriculum, alternative diploma, the overall morale that's in the schools, as well as the board's consideration of pursuit of action regarding the LMS solar project. On October 14th, Christina Harrison sent a text message to the board with registration update for the Fair Funding Project presentation and with confirmation that elected officials have been invited. Mr. Cutter responded, Ms. Harrison responded, and then Mr. Cutter responded. On October 15th, the superintendent emailed the board sharing that there was a community members right to know request. On October 15th, the superintendent emailed the board recirculating the October 16th agenda with updates on various discussion points for the evening. On October 16th, Ann Inamorati emailed the board circulating a small check manifest for review. On October 16th, Mr. Hirschberger sent an email to the board advising of some sports conflicts for tonight, so they might be late, although he didn't end up being late. On October 16th, Michaela Demeter, who is on the New Hampshire Fair Funding and also a board member for the Dover School Board, sent an email to our school board encouraging our attendance and registration for the Litchfield presentation. And on October 16th, Anna Marati also circulated an additional credit card manifest. And that was up through 2:00.
Awesome. A light couple of weeks. Appreciate that.
No.
Yeah.
But we also got positive feedback, which I always like. So.
All right, moving into general business and turning it over to the superintendent. We'll kick it off with budget.
Yeah, so the first thing is a lot of us are new, so we want to make sure this is more of logistics than anything else, I think, this discussion right now. So we have, I'm putting it up here on the big screen, the meetings around school budgeting up here that we have. I'll come down to school budget. And so we're getting ready to deliver the budget to both. And this, jump in if we're incorrect on anything, because I just want to make sure we get everything to the right people at the right times.
Yep.
So the delivery of our draft school board budget to both you, the board, and to the budget committee on October 29th, correct? We give it to both groups at that time?
Yep, we're gonna see it both at the same time.
Yep.
If it's ready sooner, great.
Yep.
Right, it doesn't have to be October 29th. I think the idea is by October 29th
Yep.
is the target.
Okay.
Just looking at the calendars. And yeah, hopefully it's ready to go.
And you like it in the binder format, right, with everything?
formats,
Both formats. So typically, I receive a soft copy, the board receives a soft copy, because we do quite a bit of analysis on that soft copy.
Yep.
But there are many people, including budget committee members, who will ask for a hard copy.
Got it. And then we meet on, I think that's Thursday, November 7th, and Thursday, November 12th. So just before
I
that,
think it's
we have.
Thursday and a Tuesday.
Thursday, sorry, yeah, thank you. Thursday and a Tuesday.
Yep.
So Wednesday, November 6th, do we have a regular board meeting, or does that?
We do.
Okay.
We
All right.
do.
So that's a
Yep.
regular agenda going through, but kind of leave the budget stuff till the next night where that will be
Right,
exclusively.
so Thursday,
budget.
November 7th, we'll go through the budgets together, right?
Yep.
And we'll just present the various sections in a way that makes logical sense. And
Yeah.
we'll use the next meeting to cover off the remaining items,
Great.
right? And then we'll go into November 14th with school budget, the school board actually deliberating on the budget, talking about various items, maybe making some motions if it's necessary, and if needed, also the meeting on the 21st to do so. We're recognizing everybody's new at this process, right, from the administration side.
Yep.
And I want to make sure before the budget committee actually votes that the school board has had adequate time to go through and deliberate everything that we need to talk about. And if there's a need to add in a meeting date or adjust, then we need to do that.
Sounds good. And then, so on the 7th and the 12th, I think we've heard positive feedback on how that's been kind of presented the past couple of years, where the directors and the principals kind of present their own respective budgets in a presentation, PowerPoint kind of presentation. You know, obviously kicked off by us from the SAU with like a
Yep.
big picture kind of overview of what we're looking for and stuff. So we'd like to continue that process. That's how we've started prepping.
Yeah,
for
big
that,
picture
so-
overview, you know, trends that you're seeing, themes
Yeah.
that you're seeing in the budget, maybe some new budget drivers.
Major drivers,
Yeah,
as
major
usual.
drivers.
Yeah.
You know, things like, you know, salary and benefits. I'm sure Holly's gonna
Yep.
come in and talk a little
Yep.
bit about some of the insurance rates that
Yep.
she's seeing and things like that.
Yeah, perfect. And then, okay, so then we'll go through those presentations, review at the board, review at the budget committee. So that's good. I just wanted to go over that. We just had some of those logistic questions. We want to make sure we stay on top of this in a timely manner and prepare in a way that makes it, you know, easy for everyone to digest. I know we'll have obviously discussions about everything, but at least that we're on the same page of how we're presenting it time-wise and everything like that. So I appreciate you just taking a few minutes with us and helping us go over those dates.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us? We've been kind of in the middle. We have our district administrative meeting tomorrow where we're really gonna iron out some final thoughts on it before starting to put presentations together and stuff like that. So, any immediate questions for us?
No, I mean, so if you look at December 5th and December 12th, again, this is the budget committee calendar, right? So December 5th, December 12th is really when those 2 Thursdays, they're taking their review
Yeah.
and voting actions against the school budget. So the idea on this plan is that we're done all of our voting actions by November 21st. And that's what I'm saying, if there's
Yep.
an additional meeting needed, then we need to be flexible with that.
That's good.
And we've set the stage with the budget committee back in March when this was first presented that we're gonna need a little bit of flex
Yeah.
on this if needed, so.
Great. Thank you. We feel good, so that was
feel
helpful. Thank you.
All right, excellent.
All right, second thing is the CHS music trip to Universal. So we brought this up, I don't remember if it was last meeting or meeting before. Whenever we were talking about the Spain trip,
Right.
this was a question that came up, the music trip. And ironically enough, we've had an up and down weekend in regards to the music trip, so it's kind of good timing. So to condense what's going on, we heard from Friday, or Nate did, who's kind of the point person at the high school for the trip, that we didn't have enough students to qualify for the educational component of the trip, which I was not here when the trip was presented last year, but obviously I would imagine as an educator is a key component of why we would do this trip, to participate in the educator component. So kudos to Nate. He reached out immediately to the people who are organizing the trip, and we got that issue resolved. We're back on for the educational component. So that was a really positive thing about that. The downside of that is, because our numbers are down from what they projected originally, the cost of the trip has gone up a little bit. So Nate was reaching out. He met with FOPA last night, went over it, just as they're kind of a good group of people to talk to about, obviously in terms of the music trip, to kind of get their thoughts on it. And he was calling each family individually.
He invited all of the families.
Yeah, he invited them all last night. Yeah, jump in whenever you want, Tina. And he was calling each of the families individually as well, the ones who couldn't attend, to make sure where people.
Say FUPLA?
FOPA, Friends of Performing Arts.
For arts.
Yeah. To kind of go over the changes on how that would adjust from a financial component. Why this is critical, because we have to make kind of a final decision by Friday. We can get our full deposits back if we elect to cancel the trip by Friday, or if we don't cancel it, we don't get the deposits back, which was $450. So we just want to make sure we're confident in the decision that we're making. And since the trip is more than what was initially advertised, we want to make sure families are comfortable with the trip still, since there's been some changes. Part of the changes is we're getting different rooms because there's less people going. We're not getting the 6-person, my understanding is we're not getting the 6-person rooms, which would drive down the cost a little. They're 4-person rooms, and so on and so forth. So Nate was talking to the families about it. At this point, it feels like the majority of them are very comfortable moving forward. We would like to do some additional fundraising. FOPA's going to help out a little bit with that aspect. They've graciously offered some financial support for those who need it. Nate's also in the process of applying for some scholarships through the organization that's running the trip. So we're hoping to kind of offset some of the costs that were increased by some other avenues. But I wanted to bring this up to the board because honestly, we weren't part of this proposal last year. So, it was brought up at a board meeting previously. We feel comfortable going forward with the trip, but we're committing ourselves to the trip, at this point. And if that is something that was hesitant to anybody, we have till Friday to make a decision. But Nate's done a really nice job of kind of dealing with the issues that have cropped up in the last, few days. So we feel okay about it, and we have a plan kind of moving forward. But we just want to be transparent that it did not go as planned when this was initially laid out and presented to the board, I believe, last year at some point. So I don't need an approval to move forward, but I want to make you aware. And if you had questions, and Tina, again, jump in at any point here, make you aware of it. So if others had questions for you on how we're getting from A to B here, people were all knew what was going on. So just want to report out on that.
Okay.
We are going to move forward.
Look, I appreciate the update. Yeah, it's unfortunate that there were less students that enrolled, but I'm grateful for Mr. Lammy and the hard work that he's doing to keep it kind of going.
Yep.
And as long as the families are okay with the changes to the structure, then that's great.
Yep. It's about give or take $100. It's not that perfectly for each family, but give or take per student. All right, so next is YRBS. I had sent this out to the board in an email last week because being new to the district, I was checking to see if we've done this before, so thank you for responding that we have. I still put it on here for a discussion. Typically, in other school districts I've been a part of, the model that's been typically used, every school I've done, I think I even mentioned in the email, I even took it in high school once upon a time, a long time ago, was that it's an opt-out type of format in terms of the survey. So you send a notice to parents, this is the survey that's going to go out to your students. Here's the form to opt out if you don't want your student to take it. And then while the survey is kind of going on, typically they just work on homework quietly, either in an alternative setting, depending on the numbers, or in the classroom that they're in taking the test. So I didn't know if we wanted to discuss a different version. The issue with the opt-in, I know that is a potential. Sometimes people do that for different surveys. Definitely have done that myself for surveys in the past. Is you don't get high response, especially at the high school level. Like, parents just kind of ignore, not ignore, but they're busy, in lives and everything like that. So I would encourage to continue to use the opt-out format rather than the opt-in to ensure we have relevant numbers. YRBS, there's pros and cons to it, with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. We understand that not everyone's 100% honest on that survey, but you can see nice trends. I think that is what, if you kind of bank that the same amount of kids are not going to be honest every single time they take the survey, you can then see like a general trend, and you can make those comparisons to how you're doing in your area and towards the state and stuff like that. We found it valuable in other schools I've worked in. So I do think it's a useful tool. It's not a singular tool, but it's a useful tool to see how your community is, and especially in kind of those risky behaviors that students are participating in. So I guess I'm asking the board, are we continuing to move forward with this in kind of the opt-out kind of version of taking this survey?
Any concerns with the board?
Well, I think, I mentioned that I think it should, surveys like this, and probably a lot of different surveys where it's, I'll say, a sensitive subject matter.
Yep.
I think the parents should have the opportunity to, or should opt in their kids, as opposed to just saying everybody's gonna take it.
Yeah.
And don't know for sure, but I would imagine in the past, we've had people say, why did my child take this survey, or this is not something I want my kid to do.
Yeah.
I just think it's safer, from a public relations standpoint. And I agree, there's probably gonna be people who don't respond.
Yeah.
But if they find out about it, I'm sure they could come back and take the survey if they wanted their kids to take it.
Yeah, I mean, they usually do it on a singular time everywhere, like this is the day and time you're taking it, or at least that's how it's been. So it's kind of that all or
it's a
nothing
state
request.
survey.
It's a state survey, yeah. There's no real identifying information that we get back. You make the results public afterwards, but it's in a big picture type of viewpoint, right? They do it from the school, from your area, so we would be South Central, and then from the state and how your rankings are from that, your rates are for that. But I understand your sentiment. I think if we were doing something on a smaller scale, 100%. But with it being such a big state survey that is done every 2 years by pretty much every high school, then I think in this example, it's okay. But I do hear your sentiments, and there are certainly surveys where I would agree 100%. You need to opt in to kind of take this one if we were looking at more localized data for specifically just our school or grade level or something like that.
Yeah, it's the will of the board.
I support doing it the way that it's been done, the opt-out method. I think the value of the information gathered outweighs, in my mind, any safety concerns on this particular issue, and the fact that there's anonymity with it. As a parent with vaping and all of these other issues, I really think it's important to get a pulse. And again, I understand that not everyone's gonna answer honestly, and but I think it's important for us to understand what's happening in our community, and if only 30 students take the survey, we're just not going to get the information we need. It'll probably be the same students. I mean, I think at this point, I was at the open house for the high school, and Jake indicated that there was, I believe, at least 40% of parents that hadn't even filled out the back to school forms yet, with biographical information and with addresses and with, and that's not a survey. That's just literally give us your information so we can contact you about your kid. And so given that response rate, I can only imagine that a survey like this is just going to slip through the cracks. So personally, I'm okay with the opt-out.
I do think a couple things. We can make the survey available beforehand, right? So any families that want to read it beforehand knows exactly what's going to be asked, right, in terms of questions. It is a one-shot survey. If you're not there to take it, we don't chase you down. Like, it's not like, hey, you missed your PSAT, like, come take your PSAT. If the day arrives and a kid or a family feels like uncomfortable taking it, even in school in the moment, we don't mandate it there, like, in that type of sense. So there is opportunities even from that, like if a kid's just not present at that time, they're not present at the time, they don't participate in the survey, or even, in the past, if kids really had an issue as soon as they started, we're like, hey, you're good. Like, you don't need to take it. We're going to close your computer up and move on. So, so there are those other softer opt-outs, I guess, in a way, if the moment arrives and if someone feels uncomfortable about it.
What decisions do we make off this survey?
I think it's, it depends on what the school is. I mean, if I can brag a little bit, when I was at Bow, our trends were going down in the risky behavior in terms of drugs and alcohol, vaping, those type of things. So we felt good about the procedures we were implementing in terms of community building there. What we saw was an increase in kind of the mental health areas that we saw kids really struggling, particularly our female students. So we tried to identify different resources, go into health classes more often to go over different resources with kids, make adjustments to our counseling supports that we had to kind of make those kind of just trend general changes to what we were doing. I have not looked at the YRBS survey from Campbell, in the past, just because it hasn't been on super high on my list yet to get to and stuff like that. But that's where you get from kind of the trend discussion, like where is things trending. If we saw a tremendous spike in kids accessing vapes or tobacco or something like that, well, maybe we need to approach that differently in the schools, right? Some schools have used that as an opportunity to put vape detectors or those type of things in their buildings, or truncate kids' ability to go to their cars on their own, or whatever the thing is that they have to do. They change some of their procedures to address that. But it can also emphasize the positives that you've done. Like, I think, knock on wood, at Campbell right now, it's been a very pleasant, Nick, jump in at any point, starts of the school year here. The kids seem to be very respectful and well behaved, so I would hope that the data would show that, that we see kids participating positively in their school and their community and their different things and not taking these risky behaviors, because that would tell us what we're seeing with our eyes may be happening not just in school but all in the community in general. So
I think Campbell had similar trends that you were talking about with Bo, particularly the spike in the mental health.
Yes.
Post, because the last time it was done was
Yes.
2022, which was
Yep.
post-COVID. So I would be curious if that's leveled out. Is that gone down now that we're more years past the pandemic and the school impacts that it had, or if it's just social media and it's just increasing? I don't know.
And it's interesting to see how you are reflective to your state and your region, right? Like, if you kind of are following the same trends as your region or the state in general, like, okay, this is a trend with all kids. But, I don't remember the specifics off the top of my head, but there was a couple instances where we were significantly higher at Bow than the region. It was like, well, why is that? Right? Like, let's drill into this a little bit more and figure out what the issue was here specifically with this type of question. And maybe the kids didn't understand the question, because there's kind of similar questions that show up and, worded slightly different to ensure that you're getting a little more accurate information. But it does help you, like, drill that down. And you don't know specifics, so you can't go find the kid and be like, why did you say you're vaping? Like, that's not what you're looking for. It's just that general information.
I think that would be probably the biggest pushback we would get, is people not believing that it's truly anonymous, right? Like, because ultimately, like, what are you going to do? Like, where would there be a risk with this data? Really only if you tie it to the specific kid and then they think there's going to be some sort of retribution. But if it's truly and honestly, anonymous, then...
Yeah, I as far as I've worked with it, I think it's pretty anonymous. Like, I've never been able to, nor do I care, to figure out who's answering to what. Even sometimes you see a question where you do have a gut reaction, like there's some variation of like percentage of your kids who are accessing like heroin or like a hard drug like that, and you might see 2 or 3 say yes to that. Like, yeah, there's a part of you that internally is like, who said yes to that? Like, we need to tackle that.
Right.
But you can't get that information.
Right.
So like, now fortunately I think, you work with strong educators who can, support their kids and can identify at-risk kids. There's many other things that schools do to identify at-risk kids. It's not just the survey. So you can figure out that information through more,
Yeah, and I think that the ultimate purpose of this is not to, like, try to get people in trouble. It's really just
I don't think it's a gotcha thing.
Information
I just think
gathering.
there's going to be some parents who might be sensitive.
100%,
To the
and I understand
questions.
that. And I would definitely like share the information and sit down with people, and no judgment. If someone opts their kid out of it, is perfectly fine. So,
Cool.
All right, well, I think the will of the board is to keep it as is and to run with it.
okay,
I don't know that we need a vote on this.
Nope.
All right,
thank you.
thank you, though. Yep.
All right.
Crowd management protocols.
Yeah, this is an update for the board. One of the things we need to have is crowd management when we have big events. Whether we're hosting the event, like a group is coming in to use ours, they have to have someone who is trained in crowd management, or we ourselves, if we're hosting an event, need to have someone who is trained in crowd training, but that's if we're gonna have a crowd of 100 or more. So we went over this at our emergency management team. This is more of an FYI for the board. We do not know who is trained in this, so we are gonna make sure we get a list of people who are trained in it. Yeah. So that's the training. If you're curious, you can click on that. That's the generally accepted. Litchfield Fire agreed that that's the best training out there for in terms of this crowd management. It is kind of the accepted training we did. I have done it in my past. I did it probably about 5 years ago at Bow. It's a good training. You know, it doesn't take too long, probably less than 2 hours. And it's literally crowd control. Like, what do you do at the beginning of a performance? You know, you go through the exits, you go through these different things, but you're making people aware of that. So we're going to generate a list of people who this is relevant to. Make it this will be a policy that comes to the board in the future, but when we update our facilities use policy, including this in here that you have to have someone who is crowd management trained. The PD itself is relatively cheap. It's $20 for an individual to complete the training. So we're going to train some individuals on this.
Do you happen to know how long the certification or is good for?
No, we were trying to figure that out. Like, for
Yeah.
myself, I did it about 5 years ago. So I think we're going to put in every 2 years that you have to do the training just internally as a mechanism.
Okay.
Helps us stay on top of who's being trained as we bring people in and out of these different things. There will be certain positions that will kind of require it. For example, like an athletic director, music director, those type of people. School level administration need to have that. But we're willing to work with anybody to do it, right? It's not a heavy lift for us. If there's prominent community members, we can certainly work with them and help with that, with the different organizations that come in, such as the PTOs and everything like that. So it's an important thing just to do from a safety standpoint, make sure we're up to date with it. So we're going to kind of move forward with that as much as we can. All right. Next, this is kind of a fun one, I guess, gifts and donations. So by definition of policy, we have to tell you when we get gifts, no matter the amount of money that they are. So we got some gifts recently, so we have to tell you. So McQuestion Farms has donated 4 potted mums to GMS for outside and stuff like that. 5, it was a 5, sorry. 5. Yep, 5 potted mums. We want to thank them for that, and we're going to accept those, which is great, so thank you so much. In the policy, you can read through it. The board has to vote on anything that's worth more than $5,000 of value. You got to have a public hearing to accept that. But if it's not addressing school needs or student needs or something specific, we do have to bring this to you. So we're bringing these 2 donations and making you aware of it. The second is we had 2 families kind of reach out through Dan. They wish to remain anonymous at this point, but they have donated a fridge to GMS for their teacher's room, their teacher space for the adults to use. So we want to thank them generously. Sorry, we can't do that personally, but they've asked to remain anonymous. But I hope you don't mind that we have accepted these donations. We have not put the fridge in yet as a precursor to this. But this
Yeah, get
we
it.
will just
Wait to be plugged in.
just wait to be plugged in.
Okay, so it's sitting there and it's just not, okay.
When we were reviewing policies and everything, we saw this and we're like, hey, we got to follow this. So this might be something you kind of see tagged on at the end of mine, just a quick update. It's been a lovely community that's been super, at least welcoming in the time that we've been here and doing these things for our schools. So we need to update you and thank people when we can. So there you go. Along those same lines, because this is actually what prompted us to look at our policies. It's the next thing, advertising in schools. So we had an organization kind of reach out. You can see click on the example there. They want to give our teachers school calendar magnets, but with advertising on it. So this, I feel mixed about it. Like my gut was no, but then I read through the policy and said maybe this is something just to discuss with the board to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. I'm appreciative of organizations that want to do stuff for our staff. I don't think there's evil intentions here with this, but when it comes to advertising companies and we don't always know who is behind the company or what they're representing, or yes, it seems innocent enough and everything like that, I would tend to say no about that. But again, being new, we want to run this through the boards, get your thoughts on it. So my instinct here would say thanks, but no thanks for this type of opportunity. Yep. But again, if there's some precedent, I know we do different advertising in different avenues in terms of like athletics and stuff like that.
I'd like to believe our staff knows the calendar very well.
They should. They should. But are you comfortable in these situations if we politely decline
Yes.
this type of advertising
Absolutely.
opportunities?
Yep.
So, okay.
But I do think
We should have a magnet.
magnets for parents would be fantastic. Let's be honest. How nice would it be to have the red days that are off be on your calendar
On your
that
fridge.
you're like,
Right.
oh, okay, I see a red day coming up. I should pay attention to that. But another day.
We should hand them out at the.
So just to be clear though, they are
For the following
looking
year.
to just provide, not that I'm saying that we should do this,
Yeah.
but they're just looking to provide calendars. They're not looking to pay us to advertise.
No, so they're soliciting and offering the gift of, this is why I went down the gift road, the gift of a calendar a magnet calendar to our staff, but they want their logo and stuff on it. Which no, that's great. That's wonderful that they want to seek that out, but schools were usually hesitant to kind of bridge that for one reason or another, so.
Well, thank you for
Would
bringing
they
that to
want
us.
to fund our food budget? We may be willing to have a discussion.
Like, we have different processes, obviously, for advertising, and that's a different thing.
You gonna reach up to Campbell Soup or something?
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
we're going into budget season. Wouldn't it be nice?
We'll turn it over to business and operations update.
All right. So I do have the updated school board financials attached. There's nothing really out of the ordinary there, also for transfers. One thing I did want to talk about is I have been spending a great deal of time working on the DOE 25. It's a very detailed document. I've actually shared it with all of you for you to review, and there is a signature page, so I will leave that with Renee over at the SAU office. Once you have reviewed the document and feel comfortable signing it, I can go ahead and upload that separately, so I can go ahead and have the DOE 25 sent tomorrow, but once I have the signature page, I can send that separately.
Okay. So the ask is the board swing by the SAU after you've had an opportunity to review to sign the signature page. Please.
One of the nice things with it is the state will review that document as well. They don't just accept it from us and say,
Exactly.
great. So if they find an error, they reach out to Julie and we correct it with them. It's a joint kind of process with the state, so when we go through it.
Okay, thank you.
As far as solar goes, we did have an update. Brian had reached out to Kay from Dynamic Grid last week to let her know that the wiring has been moved. So everything on our end has been completed. She did indicate that next week is when she is anticipating the install of the equipment to happen. So we don't have an exact date at this point, but she did say next week, so we are hoping that that stays on target. She did also mention, though, that there was an issue that came up with Liberty Electric. I don't know exactly what this is, but there is a misspecified breaker in the solar cutoff panel. So she said that her people are working with the electric company to try to work around this, and she expects that that is going to come to a resolution this week, so it shouldn't impact the installation for next week. Certainly if we
What
hear
is being
otherwise.
installed?
Yeah,
next
so it's
week?
gonna be my question. What's going in?
So apparently, the plans that they had originally started working with the electric company, they didn't have all of the information they needed to make sure that it had the proper breaker or whatnot. So she did take responsibility for the fact that that was something that it was not a Liberty issue. It wasn't on their end. So it is something that they have to work with the engineers and the commissioning agent to, I guess, get everybody on the same page with this.
So not directed at you or anyone at this table, but I want a date where the array is going live.
Okay.
What's the date that this thing is going to be turned on, and what's the date that we're going to have the concrete pad poured in the back, and what's the date
Yep.
that we're going to have the battery storage delivered?
Okay.
And what's the date that we can remove LMS solar update from our agenda?
It's going to be next still.
So the
2030.
thing they're installing, I'm sorry, I don't know the specifics. The thing they're installing is supposed to be the thing that allows us to turn the array on, right? So there's this big wiring thing that there's these wires dangling. I'm sorry, I don't know this stuff. There's wires dangling, and this board thing is going to be in there, and the wires are going to go in there, and now they're going to talk to the breaker thing, and then everything's supposed to work. So I have, as I mentioned at the last board, we told her, like, we have the on-site and site people here. We would like this thing up by then. Like, we're doing this assessment of the buildings. That seems like a critical thing to know if it's working in terms of value of the building. Like, can we get this up? And she said it will be done by then. They're coming in next week to do the work. So that's one deadline that we have. So we'll have to figure out, there's that day where we have to, like, they have to shut down the power, right? So we got to coordinate that. That's obviously not going to be a school day. So we have to figure out what that day is. A weekend makes sense, and I feel like that's not too heavy of an ask.
Given
Look,
the
it's been a
timeline.
long time. So you got to come in on a Saturday to do this.
Veterans Day.
Yes.
But is it up to the
Veterans
utility?
Day,
Is it up to the utility company though?
That's what we
That's
got
the
to ask.
$1 million question.
So,
Because they may not agree that it's a big ask or not a big ask.
yeah, the day we have, like, in the back of our heads, if we need it, is the day before Thanksgiving. You know, because that is typically a work day for people. We're fortunate here to have it off in this district, but I know I've worked in any other district I've been in, and that's been some semblance of a work day.
Yeah.
So that could be a target date where, you know, people are around, we can do it. I don't live that far. If they need me to come and open a door or something, I can do that for people, so, yeah.
And I'm assuming Principal Grantham is aware of
Yeah,
the upcoming work.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
I do think that you guys are really keeping the heat on, and I think that that's gonna finally drive some sort of resolution to this eventually.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see if this works.
That's an understatement of the year.
But, like, you know, the more you read up on it and stuff and reading, you know, it's really kind of intriguing. I get where the intrigue came from, the idea, right? Like, this can save the district a lot of money if it goes as it's intended. And, you know, the cleaner energy and stuff like that, it could be a real advantage for the district long term. You know, the savings is nothing to laugh at, like, if this is up and running and going and stuff like that. But it's got to be up and running, and to see that kind of happen. So if it happens and works, like, kudos, this is awesome. Like,
Right,
I
but-
think you'll be at
and
the
you hit the
forefront.
nail on the head a couple of weeks ago when you talked about reputational damage, right? And goodwill with
Yep.
the community,
Yeah.
right? Those are all top of mind for me. You're right. The economics and the value of this array are there, but nobody sees that.
Well, no one
It's been-
no one can trust it.
Nobody
because
trusts
it's
it.
like-
It's been
trusts
too
it,
long
like,
of a
yeah,
process,
it's
right? We're
over.
losing confidence, quite frankly, in Dynamic Grid to deliver.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem.
Yeah. So hopefully this is coming off sometime in the near future.
All right.
I know Nick loves this topic. I can just.
Yeah. Love the solar.
All right, anything else on the financials? All right, we're looking forward to getting into the budget season, right? I see no board member smiling except me, so.
All you.
All right, we'll shift gears, and thank you for the update. Curriculum.
All right, so
You're welcome.
exciting things happening in curriculum right now. Last week it was great because I had meetings with the CFs at the high school. Had great conversations with them, and I am going into some PLCs to continue conversations and work. Last Thursday, I was at GMS for the day and met with every grade level team, which was amazing. It was a fantastic day. We had great conversations around a variety of topics, including, you know, things that are going well, any questions that they have, what a day in the life of such and such a grade looks like, you know, and just all overall positive vibes happening with that. Trending was some questions around writing and what that kind of instruction and curriculum looks like, and I have many an answer for them for that. I'm actually doing a train the trainer with the state right now, so I gathered some teachers to get on my train, and I'm going to go in with them and do some piloting with them and some training them up on this particular methodology. And it's not a program, it's a how to effectively teach writing, which is really great. So that was very timely. That was trending, like in pretty much every grade level. We talked about some form of writing instruction. So that will be coming along. So next week, I'm excited to go to LMS for their vertical team meetings. I'll meet with every subject area over there next week. So I'm excited for that conversation. Really exciting is the next item, which is the curriculum vertical alignment. So when I first came and presented to the board, we went over data, talked about the 3 focus areas that really popped out. And one of those was getting vertical alignment in our curriculum all the way from pre-K to 12. And I've been meeting with Brian weekly, like, it's October, and how are we going to start this? What's this going to look like? So thankfully, we have an amazing, supportive administrative team, and everybody really values curriculum work. So we are going to, well, I'm going to hold vertical alignment meetings with each of the 4 main content areas right now to start with. The link there shows a flyer that I sent to staff last Thursday with dates and kind of a synopsis of what it's going to look like a little bit. And I'm just thankful to everybody. Like, the SAU is going to, flood the schools. Brian's offered to sub, so that we can get these happening. So it'll be
This is during a school day.
It'll be during a school day, and the curriculum content person from each grade level at GMS will come rep for that grade level. Then LMS, each of the content teachers from those grade levels will come, and then each of the departments from high school will come, and special ed will also come, because it's a joint team effort, and we're really going to break it down for 6 hours. It's going to be amazing work. I'm very excited about it. I'm very appreciative about it. And it's going to really help kickstart the rest of the work moving forward through the year, when I go into more of these content meetings and meetings with PLCs and all of those things. So
Are the goals and outcomes of this explicitly clear?
for each of the days. So this just came to fruition last week, I think,
We finalized it last week. I think from goals and outcomes, what we want to start doing is building we have curriculum, obviously, but
Yes.
making it uniform K through 12.
Yep.
So Sarah worked on a unit template that mimics kind of, we brought up that Madison School District and how they're kind of the model of their curriculum work, using that as kind of the template that we're going to utilize, and having the teachers start to map out how that all works K through 12. So if second graders say they're teaching this writing skill here, where else is that showing up, and how does that evolve over time and stuff like that? Or is it not showing up, right? Like, is there gaps in that type of thing? So the hard thing is when you do one-offs on like just a PD day or a department meeting or something like that. One, you can't get everyone together at all 3 levels. And 2, they're just kind of like, they're great, but they're not like, you can't dig into it. So by taking a day with Sarah, who this is what she does, is do this curriculum work. This is what she's an expert in.
This is a big step.
Working with our teachers, making this commitment that we're going to have all the relevant people in the room together is a huge thing. At the end, what we're hoping is the beginning of those kind of K through 12 curriculum models. There'll be a work in progress, because we got to continue to that. I think it'll be nice to report back out afterwards what it looks like, because I think it's a hard thing to explain to people. Okay, you're taking a date with all these people. What is that thing you're coming up with, the tangible?
Yeah.
But you can see it. You can see it in this curriculum. I call them maps. They're not maps, but these unit kind of outlines and stuff like that. And the standards are listed, and the transferable skills and everything along those lines, and start to see where and where not they are. And the nice thing is that you can see what your other peers and other times are doing. When I was part of math teams that were K through 12 as a math teacher, when you hear elementary school teachers and you never stop to think about, like, how do they actually introduce addition? Like, how does that happen? And then you hear them talking about it and be like, oh, now I can use that in my classroom here at the middle school, at the high school level. And the same thing, how do you get them, what are you guys struggling with at the high school level? can you work with them on fractions? Like, that's what I need, them to understand the operations around fractions. Okay, let's make that a focus, K through 12, that streamline of all that. You start building all of that. So the goal of it is the beginning of that work, spending tangible time, maybe start doing some draft units out of that using the template and being able to build off of that work. You know, we have other PD days this year, January, March, which this will continue to be, kind of build off of that.
Yeah, and I have kind of an outline, and I told Brian today, like, I'm going, you know, when you do this kind of work, it's kind of monumentous. And we have to start at kind of the beginning, because people's level of understanding is very different. And if you ask somebody what a competency is, you could go around the room and get all different definitions. So we need to standardize that for Litchfield. We need to standardize our understanding of what standards are and what that looks like when we translate that into instruction. And how do we look at things at the discrete skill level and figure out, okay, how do we know if a student knows that? What is that evidence going to look like? So there's a lot of pieces to that. So really this is the primary goal is to, thank you. The primary goal is to get everybody level. Like, let's get on the same page. What does this look like for us in this district? And then we can build from there. Without having a level understanding, everybody is kind of working in pockets of isolation. And doing things a little bit differently. All the best, you know, as, you know, what they can do for their students. But, you know, if I'm a first grade teacher and I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and then they go up to second grade and they're like talking a different language, basically. It came up in some of our conversations about vocabulary, like when teacher X talks about decoding and they're talking about breaking apart words. Some people are saying chunking, some people are saying tapping, and the kids are like, what are you talking about? You know, so it's just trying to get leveled out and be on the same page and find that streamline that takes us all the way through graduation. And this is the template that I framed out hot off the presses. I went through several different iterations before I landed, and I didn't know we were sharing it tonight. That's okay.
Yeah, this is still a draft.
Surprise,
so everyone.
It starts off with the competencies. So if you want to scroll down a little bit. So it starts out with the competencies, because those are the overarching big picture skills, and those should be at the forefront of our focus. Like, what is it that this particular unit is going to get us to? So I wanted that to be at the top. Then we go through the unit focus and then the standards, which will become our like discrete skills, the how to kind of get there, what do we need, goes down there. And then we have our work study practices, and then we'll go to the transfer and understanding essential questions.
So, question, one of my favorite questions, which you probably can predict, is I know you guys have been looking at sort of what is the profile of success? Like, how do we measure success? And so I know that that's like a big undertaking. It's not, We're not going to have that immediately, but as we're doing things like this, I think, you know, from an outside perspective, and I could be totally wrong, but it would be really important for me to know, like, okay, again, like at the very top, we should be saying this is what success looks like. And then we need to figure out at these levels, okay, what are we looking at here? Like, what does that ultimate success look like at this current, like?
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That will
So
help guide us through
this is stage one. And then, so this is the, like, what are we doing?
Right.
Right. And then it's the how, and then how do we know?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So we need to, and those don't happen in isolation of one another. So I'm actually Still framing out the Learning Outcomes Task Force committee, or no, it's task force now, stages, and I'm almost done with it, but I wanted to make sure there were clear things that we're doing, clear phases, so that people that I can try to muster up participation understand what that work is going to be. That is going to be part of that task force priorities is, okay, if it's not like a paper pencil test, what else can it be? What other kinds of things can we look at in a profile of a student to help us know if we're meeting, if we're being successful in different areas? So all of these things are happening kind of concurrently with one another. So this is like, we're on step 1 of many. And I actually was fortunate to have a meeting with the curriculum developer. She's the assistant superintendent in Madison. She was very responsive when I emailed her. We met within like a couple of days from my contacting her, and she was great, and I shared with her all of my ideas. We just geeked out on curriculum things, so it was an awesome conversation. And she's willing to continue to talk with me. It took her 12 years to get to where they're at, and I was like,
Well, I mean,
hey.
It's not going to take us 12.
Yeah, well, but, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, why recreate the wheel if you can look to other people that have done
Right,
it? The only
exactly.
thing that we have to be cautious of is just looking for anything that's different about our community that could impact the,
Yep.
we don't want to carbon copy it if there's certain things that won't.
I already changed it. Their template doesn't look exactly like this. Because I feel like it does need to have, what does Litchfield need? And like I said before, like their understanding of what competency standards, all of that kind of stuff is going to be a bit different. They are heavily guided by the state. They don't have much local control. They say you will do this by here, you know what I mean? So it's a different state, it's a different everything. And even in New Hampshire, community to community, we have different needs. We have different populations.
I just have a quick kind of a question. I love this template. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I feel a little bit like our teachers have already done so much work on our curriculum units.
Yep.
Are we able to translate
Yes.
the bulk of it from those documents into this?
Yes.
I don't want to throw everything out
Nope.
and start fresh.
Nope.
Because
that's
we've
part
done a
of-
lot
yeah,
of work.
great
I've
question.
made sure to tell teachers, like, we're not starting, and when I say we're at level 1, we're not starting
Okay.
at a blank slate. Because I fully acknowledge the hard work that everybody has put in. It's been a long time for those things, so we're not throwing that away. We're just going to think about it a little bit differently because there are some, and even people have said, like, I didn't really understand, like, what we were doing. So we're going to make sure we have a clear understanding, and then if we need to tweak some stuff as
Sure.
we're transferring it in, then we can do
Right.
that. But
Okay.
the template, if you look at the UBD templates that we have,
It's very similar.
they're not that different, and that's purposeful. It's not, we don't want to be like, okay, forget everything you have
Right,
done
right.
and let's start from scratch, because there's been a lot of amazing work, and looking through things, it's been great. But like Brian was saying, like, we need to find that through line. Like,
Yeah,
what are the
yeah.
trends? What are we seeing?
What are the holes? What are we missing?
Exactly. I've actually made in past districts a map that shows where things are, and then we look at that and we're like, whoa, why is this whole missing in 5 grade levels? Like, maybe we should think about that, and we start doing those kinds of
Perfect.
things in conversation.
Yeah, I think it's the power of having everyone for a full day, is you can get into that nitty gritty and like kind of sort those things out. We're not asking you to redo your work.
Right.
Let's look at the work you've done, examine it, and figure out from a K-12. If you think of the science curriculum that was presented,
Right.
a couple
Right.
months ago, there's some awesome work there. But I don't know if that was thought of in the K
Linear,
through 12
right,
lens,
right.
right? I mean, that was K through 8 that was presented, but like that, how does this align with each other?
Right.
Like each of the individuals, good, right? 7th grade looks great.
Exactly.
How does that talk to 8th grade?
Right.
How did that talk to
Right,
second grade, what they're
exactly.
emphasizing?
That's what we need.
That's that
Absolutely,
process here.
100%.
So,
So a couple of things from my side, I'd be interested, like, again, in your point spot on, I feel like there's a lot of hard work already done in the buildings, excuse me, in this area. I'd be interested in where, if there's alignment between like the buildings themselves, like between grade 4 and 5, and
Right.
between grade 8
Yes.
and 9,
Yeah.
and where the disconnects are there.
Well, I think that's what this achieves, right? This
Yeah.
day, because that's going to have all the levels
all of it together.
within
Within
right?
a room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Is there a way to accelerate the timeline, or are these dates aligned to?
The big thing is we're taking like,
Taking all the teachers
All the
out
teachers
for a
out.
full day.
Can we do it
I mean, I look
faster?
at it. We're mid-October, and I see January 30th. We're not going to have any meaningful results by the end. Of
I
February.
know,
I
but to
know.
take, I think the principal's gonna kill us, because we're taking
It's fine.
16,
I'm asking you a question.
17 teachers out of the
The amount of
mix.
subs.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Just like to
amount of
align
subs
all
that
the
are
subs that are required from it.
Andrew's willing to sub that day.
I was gonna do the pitch of just like anyone out there watching this, like even if you can come in and sub for us on those 4 days,
Right.
like that would be great. Sign up, fill an application, come in and sub. I'm gonna sub each of those days because it's that important. Like I think it's really important we get our teachers together in that K through 12 model to do that. I know what is being sacrificed at the buildings on those days. I mean, you're pulling, and that's before we talk about just like, you know, November, people are gonna be sick. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we're gonna have a lot of adults out of the buildings on these days, but it's worth it to get the K through 12 dialogue that needs to happen. So from an SAU standpoint, I'm gonna be subbing. There's gonna be other SAU people if they can clear off their schedules subbing. Again, plea out there. Just in general, we need subs, but sign up, sub for us at least for these 4 days. That'd be great.
I'm gonna
Because
put it in
it's
the
so
family
hard.
newsletter. in a
And I
couple
think
weeks.
if, in a more serious note of that, I want to be careful with my words here. I would love to do this quicker, and if we had the capacity to get the subs and to get the support, we could do it sooner. But we need to be able to plan this out and make sure that our schools don't fall apart on those days, so that's why there's so much kind of leadway into getting to the days. But it'd be great if we could pull all next week and just be, hey, next week's curriculum week. 1, 2, 3, 4. Line it up and take it out. But I think the schools would fall apart if we tried to
We'd
do
have
that.
to cancel school for a week.
Yeah.
Right, right.
All right. Well, there's my answer.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. But
I'm
it's
right
very
there with you.
exciting. Yeah. I'm very excited and very appreciative, and just like we do with kids in differentiation, like not one meeting will look like the other, even though we're still standardizing our process and all of that kind of thing. But the needs of each group is going to be different and variable. So I'm excited for the work. It's going to be great days. And
More
if
to
they
come.
were all in one day or 1 week, you know, I would fall over by the end, but it would still be great.
All right. Anything else on curriculum this evening?
No, thank you.
We have our public minutes from October 2nd, 2024. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion by Mr. Shoemaker. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Harrison. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-1. Very much for that. And moving into new business, we have several policies for first read, and I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Ames.
Thank you. So we did have our policy meeting 2 weeks ago. So this has been a bit for us, because we are trying to do things more in advance and have more things ready. So as we go through, a lot of these are prompted by NHSBA updates, but not exclusively. And so we have BGAA, which is related to the work that we're doing. This is literally about the policy committee itself. And we wanted to, confirm with the board what they're looking for. I mean, our policy committee is relatively new. I think you and I started it, Andrew, 2 years ago, maybe? Yeah. Otherwise, all policies were just coming directly to the board. And so, I think it's helpful to have the policy committee. I think it's been helpful to have it screened, and it's helping to streamline the process. We were just looking to fill in some of the holes here. So we kind of landed for number 6, if the board has it open, on page 1, that highlight in yellow, that will provide reports. We didn't want to say monthly or biweekly. We just said at regular board meetings, just to kind of keep it in line with what we're already doing, which is the standing item on the agenda for the most part. We do need some help from the board figuring out how the board will allow the opportunity for public comment on these proposals, because while we are reviewing it, for example, this one we reviewed on September 30th, it comes out, the agenda comes out to the public on Monday. And then we would be having our first read. Now, again, in theory, the public would have the opportunity between the first read and the second read to provide any comments, but if we want to be able to provide a period of time for them to comment before the first read, are we comfortable with that being 48 hours? Is that
Do we
enough?
have to provide that? Because the first read is really the first opportunity the board has seen the policy.
Right, I agree with that. I think between the first and second read
Makes sense.
is adequate.
Because that's when we're
Yep.
introducing it to the community or reintroducing it to the community if it's already previously approved, right?
Yep.
And allowing the community then a couple of weeks to react and to inform the board of what they like or don't like.
Yep. So I think with this, we'll have to review BEDH just to make sure that, whatever we land on for this policy complies with that policy, or that policy complies with this policy. Again, the goal is we want feedback, we want people to weigh in, It's funny, we spent how many meetings on the dress code? That was a lot of different public input, and then a lot of these, there hasn't been any. So it just kind of depends on. Hats were a hot topic. Anyways.
Hot topic.
Yeah. So so the changes here are highlighted just so the board can see what we were looking at, what we were talking about. Do we need, Brian, I can't remember, the suspension or the waiver of the policy? This is what we put in here, right? It's still highlighted, but.
Yeah, so highlight is the stuff that we just have to determine that people are comfortable with. So the one you're discussing right now, which is number 3 on that.
Yeah.
I think sufficiently, the last statement, the board may simply state the board will allow opportunity for public comment on policy proposals per policy BEDH, which says, that people have public comments and everything like that. So, you see that exactly as you laid out. You see that first reading, people hear us discuss it right now as we're doing right now. Second reading will be next board meeting. People can make comments, through the correspondence, through attending the next board meeting, however they would like, if there's something that interests them. This stuff is public information, like their policies are posted everywhere. When we can, we try to hyperlink policies to policies that are relevant to each other so people can follow along and stuff. But I think that takes care of that. Other people do different things in other districts, but this seems pretty simple and effective for here, so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then there's smaller things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Keep going.
But just like continuing on to the next one, it says superintendent or policy committee or whatever, and we need to fill out what we want. Superintendent or designee, I think makes sense, just because we discussed it at the board meeting, we discussed it at the policy committee. Either literally the operations of it is myself or Renee physically change the documents, so she would be my designee in that type of setting. So I think that falls along with that. And we make public notice of protected action.
Sorry, how is Renee informed of the changes?
I tell her. I say, hey, can we go over this? We sit down. Like tomorrow, we'll sit down and review the board meeting and send, do whatever we got to do as a result of it. So.
And she's good. She has an agenda for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's been linked ahead of time, and on the agenda is first reads and second reads. So when we have our next policy meeting, which is next Tuesday, the 22nd, the first reads that we'll be looking at will be on there, and as well as these updated second reads. So the policy committee will have a review of them as well before they hit the agenda for the second read, whenever that is, the first week in November.
And the next one is that 48-hour rule, which we do naturally when we post the board agenda. It's posted, the Monday before the Wednesday board meeting. I'm sure if we had a special meeting for whatever reason, we would follow the 48-hour window. So you can do different things if you want. Like you could do days, weeks, board meeting, but 40 hours is the practice in this district, so I would think it would make sense to make that consistent in this policy. It's when the agenda is made public, that's when this stuff is made public, so it's all just one thing, so. So I would keep that at the 48 hours that you had there, but you could do it differently if you really wanted to, but I wouldn't,
Yeah.
so.
Not gonna make your life harder than it already
Yeah,
is.
I mean, it's simple, it's on the agenda. The agenda goes out 48 hours, so, at least, so.
Okay.
EBCC, again, you guys can read through. Renee's good about putting kind of an explanation on there for why we're updating it and what the reasoning is behind it.
On this one, there's significant changes over NHSBA. The question is why.
They did a lot of the updates to make it more safety-related language, which is like the common language in the safety world practices right now. Since this is the one that deals with, essentially threat assessment, right? They want to make sure the language is consistent with what is being used in the safety world. So that's why there's so much significant language in here. This is the NHSBA, I said right, NHSBA suggested language, which is a lot. Sometimes they tweak a word or two, but I would trust that this is the appropriate kind of change, because it's expanding not just on bomb threats, but on any type of threat assessment that a school could be
And
dealing
I
with.
think years ago, the bomb threat was kind of the typical
Yes.
hoax, and now it can be a whole array of things, sadly. And so I was trying to cover all those different scenarios. The next one, EHAB, was just the verbiage updates, background investigation. So, the current policy for background, versus and compared to,
So just, there was one in between of the data
Sorry.
governance, which is just an update with current,
Verbiage, yeah.
verbiage for current stuff that's happening in tech worlds to kind of reflect, some of the things that have been happening in terms of data security and stuff like that. We know our neighbors know that well, so.
Yes, they do.
background investigation and criminal history records checks. I think where we left off with this at the policy committee was you were gonna work with Holly to find out what our
Yeah.
policy and procedures are to see to
I think
confirm it aligns with this.
Yeah, I think either works. I mean, they're very different written. They say the same thing, essentially, when you boil it all down. So I think we can work within either of the two policies. If you wanted, I know there's an effort to align us to NHSBA policies, they go into a great level of definitions and details within their policy in terms of this, not that we don't define this in our own policy, but there's a lot of definitions at the beginning of theirs and here. So, and that's a trend in their policies that they like to define everything at the beginning. Ours doesn't go in that level of depth. We are comfortable, we'll look a little bit more closely with Holly, but just this is not going to affect too much how we're dealing with any of this. So I think it's just a comfort of the board of where you want to go in terms of that policy.
I think being consistent with our overall goal of alignment to NHSBA is important.
Yep.
That would be my preferred path.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only time we really try to diverge from that is when our legal counsel tells us that we should.
Yep.
Other than that, I see no reason to be
Special.
If that's the board's will, we could go forward with that one. I can sit with Holly and make sure she's good with that one.
Yeah.
And then we have policy committee next week, and then present that solely as the policy that we
Yeah,
would look
let's do
to
that.
kind of go. And then, similar to the second one, they're just different, whatever one you feel more comfortable
80
with.
minutes. Yep, okay. And then we have IKFC.
So this is the last one is based upon the last board meeting when we presented the alternative diploma, and this is the corresponding policy that Sarah Pooler mentioned when she was here presenting. So here it is, followed up on it, so.
So just to be clear, in terms of, it sounds like there's the feeling that we would go with the NHSBA recommended verbiage for number 4 and number 5 of here. I just want to be clear when we're motioning for our first read that we specify that it's to approve.
I'll let you make the motion.
Oh, okay. Should I keep my mouth shut?
Thanks for volunteering.
Okay, everybody ready? I will make a motion to approve for a first read policy BGAA, as, with the changes that were discussed during, the discussion period. EBCC, EHAB, GBCD with the NHSBA recommended verbiage, BEDG with the NHSBA recommended verbiage, and IKFC for, again, I think I said first read, but I'll say it again, for a first read.
Second.
Nice.
A motion and a second. Additional discussion on policies. All those in favor for first read approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. Just while we're on the policy topic, I know it has to be a couple of board meetings ago, we had talked about, allowing animals in our schools. Right?
Yeah.
And there is a policy out there for that. I'm curious just where that stands in,
Yeah.
in the evolution.
Yeah, so Jen Grantham's kind of taking the lead on it. She's got the most interest in it, and is kind of working on developing a proposed policy for it. I might mess any of this up, Jen. I'm sorry if you're watching. Correct me tomorrow when you see me. But I think if I'm doing it right, there's kind of two options we can go down. One is with Litchfield PD. So the SRO would be, they're also looking at comfort dogs and through the police. So we would partner with the police.
These dogs, but not comfort.
Yeah, not a police dog, a comfort dog. So essentially that model, if you're using your SRO to do the comfort dog, is it's the police's dog, not a police dog. It's the police's dog, the SRO's dog, who's a certified comfort dog, and comes and goes with our SRO, right? So like it's lives in the SRO's office, doesn't live there overnight, but like home base for it is the SRO's office. The SRO is in charge of the comfort dog, so on and so forth. The advantage of it is the school's a little less liability for the school because the police is involved in it, and you're not based upon a school employee like having the dog, so on and so forth. We're not buying the dog ourselves, the school district, and those type of things. The other avenue is a school can get their own comfort dog. There's grants for this and different avenues you can do it. Someone in the school has to kind of own the dog. So in my previous district at Dunbarton Elementary, to use an example, one of the assistant principals there, or the assistant principal there for a while, had a comfort dog. So the comfort dog would come with the assistant principal of the school and be there at school. And the owner was responsible for it, and it had to be certified through the different comfort dog organizations and follow through on all that. But then you're kind of taking on a little bit additional liability for that, which isn't a bad thing per se, but just it's a little different model because the school district is.
Well, then is the vice principal the one that's actually bringing the dog around?
It was their dog. So,
But I mean, throughout the day, when the whole purpose of the dog is there, so that's becomes part of their job as well.
yes, comes a part of their job.
In my
So-
school, it's the guidance counselor,
Yeah.
the school counselor.
Right, yeah.
Whoever steps up to take on a dog, I guess.
And that part of it is someone's got to take on the dog. Now, the downside is, in that situation, that assistant principal got a different job, so the comfort dog left as well. So, it left with that. Where if you're going that SRO model, it's kind of staying with the police that's in your town and kind of being part of that. I think that's Hudson's model, if again, Jen, correct me tomorrow. But the Hudson Police Department, I believe, and their SRO has a comfort dog who kind of comes and go with it. So we are working on it. We are still trying to figure out the best option for us, looking at some grant opportunities to help us kind
So
of
if the district had the dog,
Yeah.
then is the district responsible for all the vet bills and stuff like
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Well, it sounds like more to come, right?
Yes.
We're not looking at, I'm just curious on where
I
that
was just- yeah.
discussion is.
Well, and if you have an employee at the school that is taking ownership, then you only have, not only, but that is a school-specific dog. It isn't necessarily gonna be one that
Yeah.
goes to
That was a
GMS
different
or the
dog.
high school if it's at LMS or vice versa. So, point being, there's different considerations, and Jen's working on a lot of that, and,
She's very passionate about it.
I think the policy said something about allowing horses too, so.
Miniature
You
horses.
can allow miniature horses.
You don't want those vet bills.
Activated that one long and hard.
Yeah. And at Timberland, where I used to work, there was a very specific policy that said you cannot have horses on campus.
Oh.
That was the only animal banned, but it was specifically horses.
wow.
And weren't you curious why? Yeah, exactly.
Why are we anti-horse? Come on.
How about cougars?
I think they come in on their own, actually.
May I ask a question also, or bring up another policy? I was wondering about attendance policies. We have, specifically at the high school, I know we have late arrival and early release. Seniors have an open campus privilege as well. With our declining enrollment, we're having trouble filling classes and running classes. Do we, I wasn't able to find anything in our board policies about how many hours of a day a student is required to be in school or anything like that. And I don't know if that's even a requirement of the state, but it's something that I feel like it might be worth looking into and figuring that out.
Yeah, so it's a great question. Like the quick, short answer is that a student to be considered full-time has to be present for at least half of the day. Like defined as half of the day. So for example, a 4-block day like Campbell is, a student has to have 2 classes. Now you can have 3 one day and 1 the other. There's different variations to all that, but to be considered a full-time student, you need to kind of be at a minimum of half the day. Now different schools have their own rules around that. They may have different higher standards than that. And then there's also part-time students that a student can become part-time for one reason or another. You could see that, a second semester senior who has a job opportunity in the field they want to pursue, or they're taking, you see this with like kids who are taking college classes where, they might have a part-time status. You work with families on that because there's also insurance liabilities with that, whether you have a full-time student or a part-time student. But the quick answer from like a state perspective is that you need to be present for half the day, to be considered a full-time student. But there is a lot of different avenues off of that. Campbell's, I'm not sure exactly what I would have to look at the handbook.
I just looked it up. It just says that there are those opportunities. It doesn't, I don't see anything that says if you have a late arrival, you can't have it, dismissal or open campus on the same day, or I don't know. I like our kids to be in school, learning. So, to have kind of I don't know. I just wanted, if we can button that up, that would make sense for our kids and our community and our schools, The other, what was I going to say? I don't remember. I lost it. Sorry.
I have a pretty significant use of facilities policy that I'll bring to the committee next week, so get ready.
Great.
Some stuff in it. So.
Oh, and the other, I just remembered I lost it again. Darn it. It was about, we had similar policies when I was in high school. We had late arrival, but we had 45-minute blocks. We didn't have a 90-minute block. So I'm wondering if, anyway, we should. I just like to take a look
ask you when you were in high school. I want to ask you that on TV.
When I was in high school.
Yeah, but what
years?
were the years that I was in high school? They just decided no more of that because I see all of them leaving. I'm like, wow, that must be nice.
We had senior privileges. So as a senior, if you had a study hall, you can get in your car and go down to the convenience store and get a drink and come back.
Yeah, it was like jail. We were locked in.
Wow. That was in the. I was
definitely
in school
community.
back in the 1900s.
Wow. So horses were allowed on campus.
And in Vermont, so some of us actually rode them to school.
Different schools have different rules about that. Like Bow, just most recent school, the 2 most recent schools I was at, Bow, it was pretty open campus for juniors and seniors, right?
Yeah.
Not even really a grade restriction on it. It was if you get parental permission, you can have open campus if you have a free block. And that worked for that community and for that school system, right? Timberlane, and granted this was a while ago, so maybe they've updated their kind of rules and procedures. It was a lot heavier lockdown. The only kids that could come and go would be, late arrival and early dismissal, and you had to be like a senior, so.
Well, if there are parents watching, right, or anyone with feedback on this topic, right?
Yeah.
Send us a note.
Yeah.
Let us know.
It's great to know.
We'd love to hear from you. All right, excellent. Anything else on policy? Old business, facilities update.
Well, I'd be happy to present on this. We met again last week. A very lively discussion. So first and foremost, let me give you an update on the survey. We are up to 547 responses.
Okay.
We did have a discussion about, we want to make sure that at the end of this we have meaningful data. We want to know that we've gotten a good sample size, a sample size that's large enough for people to feel comfortable that we can actually rely on that as a representation of the community. I I will be lying to you if I had any sort of like statistical basis of what that should look like, but there are people in the committee who had a better sense of that. And I can't remember what the percentage was, but they came up with the number that, what was it, 933?
933. I think it was 10%. I don't remember
There's
how.
1/3 of all ballots cast at the town.
Okay,
election.
that's what it was.
That's what it was. So they came up with the number that 930, a minimum of 933 surveys was what we felt like we needed to have any sort of statistical significance. And so with that, I do have to ask, we are making a push to try to get as many of these as possible. I have to thank Jason from Litchfield What's Up. He blasted that.
He did.
That was very much appreciated.
Yes.
Hopefully we can maybe do that a couple more times throughout the life of
Did
this
it
survey.
result in a bump? Do you know? Or
Did it? Oh,
Okay.
good.
Yeah, and so the other thing that I would love to ask is if there's anyone watching that lives in a 55 plus community, we would love to get in touch with your community, like whoever, someone that could help us get into we don't want to just knock on your doors because I think that that's poor form, but we really, really, really want to get surveys from everyone in the community, and we have a much easier time reaching people that are connected to the schools, and we don't want this to be a survey that's only taken by people that are connected to the schools. So if you have a connection to a 55 plus community, we would love for you to get in touch with us, just because we want to have people take these surveys. They're not a heavy lift, but we want to know that the next time we put something on a ballot, it's something that people actually feel positive about. So there's that. With that said, the committee has asked me to come back to the board and ask you if we do not have 933 responses by the end of the day, by the end of election day, if the board would authorize an expenditure of up to $1,500 to do a direct mailing. We looked at multiple options. I don't know where you found like something that was much cheaper, but we could not find anything cheaper to do a direct mailing, but a direct mailing to all Litchfield residences, just to try like a last ditch effort to make sure that we have some sort of statistically meaningful data at the end of this. We wouldn't be looking for any expenditure on that without that. And just full disclosure, I think aside from needing a table banner, I think we still have a budget, like we still have around like $500 left of what you guys what we authorized already.
So here's my concern. We're not meeting again until November, the first week of November.
Right.
And the deadline is like
November 8th.
6 days after that. And we wanted to have this information for the on-site insight or
So-
to be able to compare. Are you asking for that motion tonight, I guess, is my
Yes, I
question.
am. Because ultimately, like, look, we're either gonna have we're doing everything we can to get the responses. It's not easy. We are hopeful that we're gonna have at least 933. But we do, at the end of the day, come November 6th, like, we're gonna have to make a decision. If we don't have them, we really should be making some sort of push to try to get them. But we don't wanna necessarily spend more money right now if we don't need to.
And
So
what was the cost you were looking at?
I think that they found $1,500 was like the cost for direct mailing to all residences in Litchfield. So again, I mean, we're up to, Dan, how long have we been live with this? Do you know?
Day before the primary.
Primary, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we're up to over 500, or what did I say the number was?
547.
547.
Yeah,
After 5
so,
weeks.
so we're trending in the right direction. I'm hopeful that, particularly with election day, I'm hopeful that we should, blow by that number, but
Just to give you a sense, before the weekend, before Jason posted it, so when I left for the long weekend, we were at 335, 330 something, so the boost on WhatsApp has resulted in 200 plus.
which is awesome. It's just hard for us to reach.
Right.
No, here's the thing. I don't know that we should wait to do the mailer. I don't see a problem with doing the mailer now, to be perfectly honest.
I think it would be worthwhile only because I would love to have more than 933, right? Like,
Yes.
at the end of the day, we had 2,600 people show up to vote on the day that we were asking last time, right? And so, the more we have, the
To
better.
me,
off we
I'm
are.
gonna say, number one, we did a direct mailer to support the new school at the time, or to not
vote.
support, to
Inform.
vote in general, to give information about the proposed project. I think it's important to do the same thing to solicit the same feedback in a similar way.
Yeah.
I guess I would want to be clear on what the mailer is going to do, because I worry that if it's just a QR code, there's still going to be technology issues with
Yeah,
people in town
so
that don't know how to do that.
I do
or-
think that the mailer that we priced out was for a postcard.
Yeah.
Right.
If we wanted to do, I don't know what the cost would be to do a postcard and, for example, a survey.
I wouldn't want to send a survey.
I don't want to send the
everybody.
survey, but I think we need to
Yeah.
wait out the link that people can go on their computer
Yeah, let's be
and
clear with what a
physically.
postcard is, because I
Yeah.
think postcard.
Yeah.
The last
Or
postcard
it
was
could
this
be
big.
Postcard.
Right,
Right.
right.
The flyer that we sent, which was a one-pager, was referred to as a postcard.
I would just include, come pick up a flyer at town hall or wherever people can pick them
People
up.
can do it
and-
Hard
online.
copies here.
Yep.
And a QR code to do it online.
Yeah.
That way people who are.
If you
Option
prefer.
1, option 2, option 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that, I think that price was for,
A small.
I don't,
I
I
still
don't
I'm
think-
fine with that.
I still think that size is fine,
yeah.
because again, I'm not looking to I don't know that I'm looking to put a ton of information on this.
yeah,
It
no,
is-
we just want,
if you have an opinion about this is your time to be able to provide it, and not just to, which is a big audience, but not just the Facebook audience, not just the computer
Every
audience,
resident in
not
town.
just the parent audience.
Yeah, yeah.
But there can be, in my opinion, this protects us because there can be no argument that we did not make every effort to reach every resident of this town in the most standard way to do so, whether it is or not.
I agree.
yeah.
I should be recommended.
Peter? What are your thoughts?
No, I think we should send it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mitchell?
It was brought up at the facilities about sending it out earlier, and the concern was right now everyone's getting hammered.
Oh, that
with
is,
political
I did forget
demands.
that.
Yeah,
But
They
that's
thought
going to
it was
happen
valid
until
point.
the election.
valid point.
That was the only reason why
It's
they
not gonna ease
said
up.
the day after, which,
I get
But then
that,
how
but at
much-
the same time, we're not gonna have the information in
Right.
time to do what we need to do.
Right. The idea here is that we're using this information to make informed decisions for warrant articles, which, if we go back to earlier tonight and looking at
Yes.
the schedule, that's in December.
okay.
Because if we don't send it out until the day after the election, there has to be some period of time that we allow people to
Right.
respond. Then we have, I mean, I'm just being honest, holidays, Thanksgiving. I mean, I assume the deadline wouldn't be till November 30th, say. That gives 2.5 weeks, and that's too close. We don't have time to do the
I
data.
agree with all that you were all saying, and that's why I brought it to you. I will talk to our graphic designer, Jen Grantham. And,
She wasn't at the meeting.
she was not at the meeting,
Oh.
but she's
She was
very
elected?
fast. She's very fast with
Volunteered
Canva.
She's
her to
awesome
do
on
that?
Canva.
No, she just likes to fire things out in Canva. It's like a
Yeah.
passion thing for
She
her.
does it.
The only other thing that I wanted to share with you all is we did have a very lengthy discussion, as we kind of prefaced that Mr. Blennis wanted to have a conversation about the Turner report. I felt like it actually was a very productive conversation. His ultimate concern was that there's a repairs only option that he does not feel like we are promoting to the community. And so my personal opinion on that, I think the opinion of the majority of the committee, was that we're kind of asking for 3 buckets of feedback. We're asking for the bucket of feedback, which is, we have a building right now with a footprint. Do you support something that's within that footprint only? And that could be repairs only, or that could be renovation of that building, which again, the distinction that we've made is like repairs only would be, hey, yep, that ceiling tile is stained, we're gonna just replace that ceiling tile, versus a renovation might include movement of walls, might include, changing the spaces. The second bucket is, would you support something that involves that footprint in addition to that footprint? And then the third bucket is, would you support something that's a completely different footprint? So my feeling was that we are actually asking that, but it's not until we get the feedback that we actually dive further into, does that, if we're doing just the footprint, is it renovation or is it only repairs? We did also highlight the fact, and there was a lot of discussion on the fact that, he's very passionate about this aspect of it, but that does not in any way, shape, or form address our educational needs or concerns, or a lot of the aspects like safety. Like I did have to remind him that there was one component of that was, we're going to hire a monitor to sit by the door, which we can't hire paras, so like we're not going to find a monitor to sit by through. anyways, nonetheless, we got a great like sort of resolution to that, which is everyone kind of agrees that really there's not a whole heck of a lot for us to do until we get the survey results back, but also with the fact that we have on-site insight coming, I think the bigger thing that a lot of the committee is really excited to do is kind of cross-reference the two things and see how much is the same, how much is different. Did anyone miss something the first go around? Did they miss something this go around? What's changed? And Mr. Oblenis agreed with that, and I think Dan DeWitt is also, who has a lot of involvement with project management like this, also agreed with that. So that was kind of the the entire meeting.
Have the numbers of the surveys, does that include the paper surveys as well? Have those been tallied, like counted or entered?
There's probably a few
or-
we haven't, just because.
One of the members, when he collects them, he then enters them into the spreadsheet.
Okay, so that includes anything that's been entered.
And he's
Yeah,
been
I'm
very,
sure we got a
very
few
efficient
we
with
just
that. I
haven't.
don't know if he has any that are.
Yep, just wondering. I didn't know if they were sitting in a box somewhere and,
I peeked when I came in, there's nothing in the box.
okay.
So are you looking for a motion for $1,500?
If so, yeah, and I guess also to direct us to go ahead with the mailer now.
So made,
Second.
There is discussion. That happened very fast. Remind me where we're pulling this from?
Well, I don't think we talked about that.
We didn't have that
Well, where did we pull the last?
School board budget, I
school
thought.
board budget,
School board budget?
The supply budget, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And we're comfortable with that still?
I don't know that we have the 1,500.
I'm sure we can get some help from our schools and their supply lines if necessary.
Look at Dan's. How bad do you need that refrigerator?
500.
Look, before we make the authorization, right, we need to be comfortable with where we're pulling
Where it's coming
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
Understood. Do we have 1,000 left?
Yes.
Because my thought is if you already have 500 from the last authorization plus the
My
1,000.
only concern is, so that was around, who's managing that money? Who had the budget, who had the balance last time? Was it you?
The budget, what we spent?
Well, who was tracking how
To
much we
print
had
the
left?
flyers?
Oh, we have about
$5.
560 left.
It was-
Surveys.
I knew it was someone,
Yeah.
it was one of them. So we do need the table sign, which we didn't get yet, right?
Right, we still gotta do that. We were
I
able to
guess the only
print
thing
some
is-
of the,
Can we amend the motion? Would that be okay? Your motion's fine, but pending, the business administrator is able to confirm that budget being in the school board budget. That remain.
Well, if it's not though, then we're not meeting again until
Then
November.
we're stuck.
So is
Yeah,
there somewhere
well-
else that we can,
Well, we need confirmation of that.
is there somewhere else that we can authorize it from?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look right now, sorry.
A table
But if we
banner
do
is
it like
not that
Andrew said,
much.
and we get an answer from Julie, then we can move forward. We don't have to meet again to do it.
But if there
If we
isn't
don't-
enough money,
Then
then
we'd
we
have to
would
go-
have to meet again to
Right.
do it.
Did you get a quote for a table banner? Because you can get a banner at Staples for about
I don't think it's that
$30,
much money.
$40.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much money.
Yeah. So what if we make it $1,000 because we know we have that?
And I thought you found a cheaper quote than,
For direct mail.
oh, I thought there was a.
They were looking in the meeting, I was not the one that was putting eyes on it, they were looking in the meeting and they said that they thought 1,500 was what we would need to be able to do that.
John, I don't know if they looked specifically, but John York at Allegra Printing has done a lot for the district.
Okay,
And he's willing, he's
Okay.
typically willing to work with us on the,
Okay.
on the costs, so.
Okay,
Whatever
so
the
we have
will
to
of the
take
board
that
is, we
from the
will-
advertising line. And we still have, 1950 in that line, so. we're good.
1950.
There you go.
Bingo.
so if you authorize the 1,500, I am continuously saying, let's try not to use.
I'll
Right.
say up to 1,500.
Yeah.
So I'll amend my motion to say up to.
Second.
Agree?
All right, so we have a motion and a second, and the motion is to authorize the Facilities Improvement Committee to spend up to $1,500 for a postcard to be sent to all residents. Direct mailer to residents in town,
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible.
Understood.
All right, additional discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Thank you. That is all I have for facilities.
Okay.
Did I miss anything for facilities?
You
Usually
guys
you're the
good.
one that catches it.
No,
Jen's already on it.
Perfect. Just let her
Probably got
know that
one
we
done
need to,
already.
just let
Is
her
there
know that I
anything
wanna
that's
make sure that
missed that we need
the
to bring up?
messaging, that we need to.
Anything that Jen caught that
No, I said she's already on making the mailer.
Oh, okay, great.
Can,
Thank you, Jen.
Sorry, can we circulate the manifests? So we don't
Yes,
get
we
hung
need
up?
to pass that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we'd be happy to start that with Tina.
I'll
Right.
start it. I'm
next-
agreeing.
Big.
Next up, moving off on
Ann was on
consent tonight
vacation.
is the capital improvement plan.
I'm sorry, Andrew, I didn't hear what you said.
Capital improvements next.
Right, so I believe I sent everybody the most recent version just in the last 15 or 20 minutes. Really, there's been no updates to this, so is there anything that the board wants to change on here? We've been holding the school as kind of a placeholder on the CIP until we have a final determination what's going to happen there, but the other items, the LMS paving, CHS energy efficiency, the LMS floor replacement, fields at LMS, irrigation at CHS.
There's a working spreadsheet, a Google sheet, that the previous administration was managing for all CIP. Have you happened to see that, or?
Yep.
We have this fun super spreadsheet that I'm on right now.
Oh,
So
the
give us
budget
a-
one?
Yeah, put it on there.
It was inclusive of everything that Mr. Plansky is reporting now, but I just want to make sure that as a board, we're talking about just the school items, right? Because that helps influence what goes into the overall town and school district capital plan.
It's not on this one, but we can find it.
Right. Capital improvements, here we go, building assessment.
There were multiple versions of it, if I recall, too.
It may take us a little bit.
Of the school, of the school's plan or
Yeah.
So
the
for
CIP?
tonight's purposes, is this something that we can think about until the next meeting? When is the next capital improvement
That's the
meeting?
issue, I think.
They're gonna have a meeting on the 23rd, same night as the,
Fire funding forum?
yeah.
So I guess with respect to like the two, so new school for grades PK through 4 versus GMS renovation and repairs. Just going back to the facilities aspect of things,
On this and all.
part of what we're feeling out is like there are still options that are being evaluated through the survey as to consolidation options, which would impact like what type of repairs would be done where. So I mean that's the only thing that like feedback wise, like I think once we have our survey back, it's going to be easier, which is probably not timely for you, but it's going to be easier to help get a general feel for what the what to do. The other thing that I did neglect to mention is that we are acutely aware of the fact that there are things at the elementary school that may just fail that we'll just have to fix. So, anyways.
Well, there were also items in the local health inspection that need to be addressed.
Yeah,
Is
there's some
that-
things local health inspection, nothing
Major though, if I remember correctly.
nothing too major
Ceiling
directly,
tiles.
right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, there's a theory that there's roof replacements needed at, the high school,
Yeah,
in the
right.
elementary school because of the leaks, but like that wasn't proven per se in the health inspection. When I look at the CIP, the one you just shared, a few minutes ago, my hope is that the on-site insight report gives a lot more guidance on specifics, drilling down on this, right?
Can you remind me of when the dates of that?
Yeah, they're coming on the first week in November. It is the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is the 6th, 7th, and 8th of November. And they should be detailing out, big capital need assessments there. So, this is good to look at. I think Julie found
Yeah, I
the
just shared
document that you were
something.
referencing
It seems a
to.
little older, but yeah.
But that might be at least a version of it when
Exactly.
she was looking quickly, and we gotta find the more up-to-date one. Because that goes into the level of detail of things like chimneys, right, which you should
Yes.
keep on top of and stuff like that. Yeah, the specific curbing stuff that needs everything like that, yeah. So we might just need to find the more up-to-date one. But I think that's probably what you're referencing, of the long document with everything. But you guys are meeting next week?
We are, but I don't think I have to have definitive answers for
Okay.
for the next meeting, but certainly probably for the following.
Yeah,
Meeting.
okay, that's good to know. We
I mean,
can
I think
help.
we're getting very
If we
close
just
to
wanna-
having very
I'm just
meaningful.
concerned about what priorities do we want to put forward.
Yeah, and again, this is just a plan.
Yeah.
Right? The idea behind this is that we're working directly with the town and that we're trying to minimize the ebbs and flows of tax impact to taxpayers and doing it in kind of a meaningful way.
Right. trying to collaborate.
So these are the ones we looked
Sounds
at online.
All right, so I think the direction here is let's ride the wave, right? We're gonna wait for the on-site insight report. The superintendent's now gonna take a look at that, the new spreadsheet,
Yeah.
right? And let's just get regrounded on the CIP.
There's two she sent out today.
Okay.
That's the credit card one.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Okay. All right, we have, manifest items.
Sorry, I am seeing one that I don't recall being emailed, so that's what the one that's holding me up.
Okay.
This
Actually,
pile
one
over
today.
here.
I skipped over school board comments. Were there any school board
Good,
comments?
okay. I'm just trying to find.
Now we'll move into manifest.
These have two.
Andrew, I have one. I saw something on Facebook the other day from the Scotus family. The Scotus family lost their daughter a couple of years ago. She was a student at Campbell, and she's trying to get a scholarship going, and has reached out to the school a couple times and has not heard back.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because I looked at it.
if
If
some,
they can reach out directly to me, I will
Okay.
make sure we get that done.
okay.
I gotta check on what the processes here in this district are, but I'm certainly familiar with helping girls get off the ground from other places I've been.
Okay.
So I can ensure that gets taken care
Okay,
of.
so I will let them know to reach out to you directly.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and we'll
appreciate
get
it.
it done, yeah.
So we're on the manifest?
We're on manifest.
Okay, so there is one here that I don't recall us getting for $7,314.16. And there is a note about, having to manually enter something because of an Ameriprise account.
Okay, I'll have to, look into that. I know
The
that-
items themselves, it's not a large one, so I'm not, and they are our regular, vendors, so I'm not concerned about that, but
How about we look into it, and because we have to go sign the district form anyways,
Can we do that?
sign that
Yes.
as well.
okay. But the rest of them all have 3.
The only comment I had was in today's manifest, or it was one of the manifests, where we were actually paying the on-site insight,
Correct.
right? That was coming out of the general fund.
We deposited the check because we were paying in 2 installments. So we had one drawn for the first portion of it. They needed to have that upfront, and then we were gonna pay the second portion.
But
we
it was
made
coming
the
out of the
request.
building trust
Yeah.
fund, wasn't it?
But we gotta deposit into our account first. So we take the money from the trust fund, put it in our account, and then pay it out of our account to offset it. So we made the request to the trust to withdraw the money. We have to deposit into ours, so,
Because we had the public hearing, we had that authorization.
so we have to hold the money and then pay it. We can't pay the check directly out of the trust.
Okay,
That makes sense?
I think so. Sounds like it makes sense.
I hope it makes sense.
Because they did change
That's
that.
the idea.
I'll have to go to all the meetings. It makes sense.
It's like scholarships, if you think about it. Speaking of scholarships, like people raise the money, they donate to usually student activities account, then we cut the check to the person.
This,
There's 3 on this, right?
Yeah.
Look at us, man, we're off.
want to take a look at this one, please? Peter, want to take a look at this one? Want to take a look at this?
Thanks.
We'll spread the love here for a minute.
Health Trust Inc., are they our insurance vendor?
Yeah.
Do you know what this one is?
That's manifest.
No, do you know what this one is right there?
That is the, yes, that's the loan payment for the middle school,
Okay.
right? The bond payment that we made for Bank of America.
Gotcha. That's what that is.
So I see another on-site insight, or maybe it's not another on-site insight payment for 15.5?
That's the one I was just referring to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the one we're gonna hold off.
Oh, that's the one we're really off on.
Could I just use your pen for 2 seconds?
You can.
Thank you.
Brendan William Hoffman.
He has a behavior therapy program that we contract him for.
Thank you.
I'm glad Julie knew that answer.
Okay, manifest now has 3 signatures minus 1, which we're gonna get some additional information on. So with that, we will close the manifest part of our agenda and open it up for our second round of community input this evening.
Look at all that community.
And we're gonna close, just like the first one, just close our second round of community input. There's nobody rushing to the mics, and with that, we're going to close our public session tonight. We appreciate everyone listening in. The board will be moving into non-public session under RSA 91A and A through C. And
I'll
with
make a
that,
motion to move into non-public.
we have a motion by Mr. Shoemaker to go into non-public, a second by Ms. Ames. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, that's carries 4-0-0. Ms. Harrison just stepped out. And so with that, we are now moving into non-public, and thank you again for tonight. See you in a couple weeks.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.